that. Do that. Right now. Nope. Nope. Wrong order or something. There we go. All right. Now we got it. Okay, so financial statement analysis. You know, if you guys were going to get a set of financial statements from a company that you've never seen before, and you were to read them, and I got the same set of financial statements and I read them, and then we went to a meeting together with a bunch of other people who would probably be better at explaining what's going on in the company. You know me. Yes, I bet I'll be right. How about somebody who's got a college degree from here and they've been working in a big four firm for, say, 3 years? They probably go all over us. Anyway, but certainly you guys can go down, right? That fast. Okay, that fast. I think probably I wouldn't calculate any ratios unless something really was funny. I just read the statements and know what's going on. But here's what you can use these for. You guys can calculate ratios. You get a set of financial statements in front of you. You can calculate ratios for 2 or 3 years. You can compare them and start asking questions. Why did this ratio change? Or why did it not change? Would I have expected to change and it didn't? Right? Would I expect it to stay the same and it changed? What's going on? Did management do something that caused this ratio to change? Did they do it on purpose? Right? Or are things getting out of control? Oh. So instead of just getting a feeling for what's going on by reading the statements, these kind of standardize it for you, right? Okay? Also, you might be able to compare your company to other companies that are in the same industry or other companies at large, right? So if you're making investments, right? Making lending decisions, okay? If you're deciding where you want to go to work, you look at their statements, try to figure out how stable they are. Do they know what they're doing or not? Okay? It can be a really nice tool early in your career, okay? You don't really get any answers by reading financial statements. You don't get any answers by doing ratio analysis. You get a whole bunch of questions, but you will have intelligent questions. Then what you do, if you're coming from outside the company and you're talking to people who are running the company, right? Or if you are the CEO or CFO, right? And you're talking to people who are running the company, you get questions you can ask them, and then if they can't answer them, you have real insight into whether or not they know what's going on. And that's a no-brainer. When I was about the company and about the managers, when I went to work at Ulster Mushroom Farms, I was like, I don't know, 23 maybe, something like that. Because I graduated at 21. So I've been out of school for a couple of years. And so maybe I was 23, and after a short period of time, the president of the company put me on the senior management team, which was pretty fun. 24 years old or whatever, 23 or 24. And after one of the first meetings, the farm manager was a guy, I thought he was really old. He was probably 45, 50. But anyway, we were walking out of the meeting. He says, Keith, how do you know so much about Ulster Mushroom Farms? You've only been here a few months. You've only been here a few months. And as well, I read the financial statements and I asked you guys questions. How I know so much. I've never grown mushrooms before. I still couldn't grow a mushroom. Not in a million years. I can't get a corn plant to come up when I put corn seeds in the ground, right? These people knew how to grow mushrooms, and they're unbelievable. It's very high tech. It really is. They're fungus, right? And they're nurturing and growing fungus. Yeah, no kidding. And how many do you like mushrooms? You should, because they're really healthy. Oh, cow. You don't have to think about it. It's not so cow. But anyway, and very, very good for you. It's very healthy stuff. Excellent food. But anyway, not the ones you get at the store, the little tiny things that are always white, which is very worse tasting mushrooms, but those little things. But if you find shiitake, right, mushrooms, what's the ones real common nowadays? Everybody's got portobello. It's everywhere. Yeah, right? When I was at Ostrom, so what would happen is sometimes they wouldn't cut the mushrooms because we'd grow the ones that looked nice because that's what people want. It makes promises that are mature. But anyway, Sometimes they miss mushrooms they throw underneath the beds, at the bottom of the beds or something, or they'd be hidden somewhere, and the cutters wouldn't find them, right? And they get to be these great, big, ugly things. They just tasted wonderful. They open up. You ever seen a mushroom out in the forest, right? They're not particularly pretty. Don't eat those right away. And this is fun too. We have people come by. The guys that were the scientists that worked for us, we call them ecologists, and we have people come by and want to talk to them and show them the mushrooms. They had to find out if they were magic mushrooms or not, right? Because the magic mushroom gets hot, right? And then they point out to them, well, you know, those might be or they might not be. I'm not quite sure. They don't tell them the truth. But if you eat them and you get high, the reason you got high is because they're mildly poisonous. If you eat them and you die, that's because the poison is real strong. So don't eat magic mushrooms, guys. They're not popular anymore anyway, are they? You people, you have friends with you? You go look for them. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, what's the drug that makes your brain fry that everybody does now? Meth, right? People do meth on purpose too, apparently, right? Have you guys ever seen somebody who does meth? They've done it for years and years. You see when you arrest them on TV and they're bringing them in, look at them. They didn't always look like that. They have no teeth. Their faces sunk in, right? It's the meth. My son was a deputy prosecutor for a long time, and so he was on the drug. He was prosecuting drugs a lot, of course. And so I asked him, I says, well, what about rehabilitation? Because for cocaine, heroin, and so on, sort of for marijuana, you can have rehabilitation, right? No problem. And they just treat it. So he says, well, meth doesn't quite work that way because their brains are fried. If they've been using it very long, their brain's dead. So you're really not going to rehabilitate them. You're just going to wait for them to die. And the really bad thing is they're cooking meth at home. They do that to their children. Yeah, it is the drug of choice in Kentucky. You guys knew that, right? And every force. I'm not encouraging you guys not to use it because I think you probably have some about it. Yeah. So, but stay away from that marijuana, and particularly stay away from bourbon and wine because they're stronger than marijuana. So yeah. Anyway. Crazy. All right. Anyway, so. The idea is you can figure things out, right? Before you go to the meeting, do it, right? You don't have to know very much about accounting to do this. You don't know very much now. You can already do it. Okay? So all we're going to do is we're going to take the financial statements and play with them a little bit. And they've been talking about it throughout the chapter. So the thing I really want to make sure I do is tell you which of these you don't need to know, which is only 3 of them, I think, that I don't like very well. Over on page 654. And we'll just talk about them a little bit, and we'll do a few examples maybe. But what I really encourage you to do is let yourself think about what you already know when you calculate these. Usually the formula is right in the name, okay? Usually the formula is right in the name. So the ones that I don't care about on page 654, don't worry about quality of income. It's cash flow from operating activities divided by net income. You can manipulate cash flow from operating activities way too easily. So I don't like this ratio very well. Some people do. That's under test of profitability. Under test of liquidity, number 8, cash ratio. Cash ratio. It's just looking at cash. I can manipulate the amount of cash I have really easily. I don't particularly care how much cash I have. I care whether or not I can pay my bills. Okay? I told you guys this before, right? Every once in a while I get a cash out of the cash machine. It'll be $5,000 on my checking account. My wife's checking account, Billy. I don't use it. Anyway, there's $5,000 in there. And I'll forget. I'll say, "Girl, what are you doing? Why is there $5,000 cash in there?" She says, "There's not. I just wrote the checks and mailed them, or whatever, or I paid them online or whatever. We've only got $300 or something. Right? Why don't I want any cash in my checking account? How much interest do they give me on it? 0. Why do I want to let the bank take my money and invest it, make money with it, and give me nothing? What would I far rather do with it? At least put it in a money market account of some kind, right? You get a couple of percent, okay? Probably 1% now, or 0.5%. Interest rates are so low. Okay, anyway, so cash ratio, take out of there. Cash coverage ratio, same thing, number 14, under the solvency test. The rest of them are all things that you should know at least what they are. Okay? And so let's talk about a couple of these. One of the points I'd like to make for you is that reading a ratio doesn't do you any good unless you look at the statements too. A lot of times what bankers will do, unfortunately, is they'll get ratios instead of the financial statements, and they'll tell you your ratio isn't good enough. You're like, well, wait a minute, you know, what's behind that ratio is what really matters, okay? So I've had a lot of interesting meetings across my career with bankers and their clients who are also my clients, and they're trying to borrow and, you know, get more financing, whatever, and negotiate good deals. Anyway, and I've had bankers say, well, you know, the current ratio needs to be 2 to 1, and it's only 1.2 to 1. And I'll say, well, it's only 1.2 to 1 because I encourage them to get it down. I don't like too high a current ratio. Current assets divided by current liabilities. Oh, by the way, could you figure out that the current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities without memorizing the formula? The current stuff divided by the current stuff, huh? What do you think? Okay. So, oh, by the way, I'll tell you this too. If you are doing a ratio where you're comparing the balance sheet to the balance sheet, what would be the most logical thing to use? An average of the 2 years balance sheets you're going to have for a publicly held company. It'll also be 2 years for a privately held company, but a public or a private company. You'll have two balance sheets. For a public company, you'll have 3 income statements and 3 cash flow statements. For a private company, you'll only have 2 of each of those also. But should you use an average of the current assets across the years, or should you just use the most recent information at the end of the year? I think just the most recent information makes sense. It starts getting dated, right? So if I'm doing a comparison of a balance sheet number to a balance sheet number, I'm just going to use the most recent data. Make sense? How about if I'm going to compare an income statement item to an income statement item? Gross profit percentage is gross profit divided by sales, right? You already knew that, didn't you? Right? That's gross profit percentage. You know what gross profit is, don't you? Sales less cost of goods sold. What's gross profit percentage? Gross profit divided by sales. They're related, aren't they? You want to memorize that one either, do you? Okay, real simple. What would be better? The average of the 3 years? Or the 2 years, whichever one you have? Or just the most recent data? I think the most recent data. In fact, what I might do is calculate it for all 3 years and compare what's happening between them, right? You can do the same thing on the balance sheet, right? For instance, for the current ratio. You know, you can do the 2 years and compare them to each other. People do that all the time. Or you keep them for year after year after year and compare them across time. It's not bad, okay? This is not generally accepted accounting principles. You can do this any way you want, right? Financial statement analysis. Whatever works for you. Whatever gives you more information. Whatever gives you better questions, right? Okay? But what if I'm comparing the balance sheet to the income statement? Well, what's the difference? On the balance sheet, you never close the accounts. On the income statement, you close them all, right? You know that, right? Start over the new year. So what's the beginning balance on the income statement? 0. So taking an average from the income statement would be kind of silly, because beginning is 0, ending is the full amount. So I'll take the most recent from the income statement, but you know what? It's looking at what happened across the year. So might it make sense to take the beginning balance from the balance sheet, last year's balance sheet number, right? If you're comparing income statement to balance sheet, might it make sense to take the beginning and the ending into last year and into this year, add them up and divide by 2, I get sort of an average, right, of what the balance sheet was for the year, and then I compare that to the income statement. So for accountants, that's how we do it. For finance people, they usually just take all the year-end stuff. You know what? Doesn't make much difference. But for our purposes in here, the way the author did it, accounting book, right? They like to take the average. I slightly prefer that. If, let's say my debt starts out at nothing at the beginning of the year, it's $200,000 at the end of the year, an average is probably better than using the $200,000 to calculate what my interest rate is or something like that. Probably a little better. What would make more sense? Calculate the weighted average for the entire year, right? Take more work, but you could do that. You can use quarterly statements, or if you're inside the company, you could actually calculate what your average debt was for the entire year, couldn't you? Okay, so you know what it was every day. Okay, anyway, so let's play with this a little bit. Let's do current ratio, for instance. Table's not quite big enough. How about, here's another one too that I might give you. Working capital and current ratio. Working capital is one people use a lot, and they don't have it on the list. It's a good one. What's working capital? It's the capital I have to work with, right? And when we say capital, we mean resources in this case, right? Okay. So, what's the working capital? My current assets minus my current liabilities. Oh, but that's going to be a dollar amount. Everybody agree with that? So for a little company, it'll be a small number, and for a big company, it'll be a big number. And you can't really compare little and big companies, so can you? Okay, got the idea. But you know, it's useful though. That's working capital. Okay. Current ratio. What's that, guys? Current assets divided by current liabilities. Hey, by the way, where are you going to get current assets and current liabilities? Really nice of them. On the balance sheet, there's a total current assets. You already know that, don't you? And it's a total current liabilities. How hard is it to do this ratio? It's a joke. Okay, now here's the deal. Don't go out to Yahoo Finance, MS Finance, and look up the ratios and use them. Because there's a whole bunch of different formulas for all of these ratios. People just like to create all kinds of stuff we don't really need, right? Right? So it's not very standard. So it might be one of the other methods of calculating it that you aren't aware of, maybe, right? So calculate them yourself. I do this with the executive MBAs. We cover this stuff. I told you all their accounting is in there. It's some of this financial accounting, some of managerial, right, in the MBA program. All MBA programs are that way. Give them a feeling for accounting, right, and a master's of business administration. Anyway, I tell them straight out, don't use those ratios that you look up online. And then they'll be sitting, I'll be sitting, they'll be standing up in front presenting their analysis of some company, right? And I'll quickly take my calculator out and calculate a little ratio. And that's not the same ratio. I don't get the same one. I have a statement sitting right here, and I don't get that ratio. Where'd you get that ratio? And of course, what do they have to say? I looked it up on Yahoo Finance. Like, well, so if you're in a real business meeting with your real boss, how impressed would it be that you have some ratio that you don't know where the hell it came from? How would you possibly know what it means? What's my suggestion for you guys? Calculate your own. How long does it take to calculate this thing from a real financial statement? Plus, what happens then is you actually read the financial statement when you do it. Okay? So let's say I've got two companies. Okay? Let's do two companies here for the current ratio. Here's company A. Here's company B. Okay? Let's see. Company A has current assets of $100,000. Company B has current assets of $100,000. Current liabilities for Company A are $50,000. Current liabilities for Company B are $50,000. Okay, everybody see this picture? 100 current assets, 50 current liabilities, both companies. What's their working capital for both of them? 50 and 50. So they're equivalent, right? I doubt it. What's their current ratio? How would you write the current ratio? You take 100 and divide by 50, and what would you have? 2.0, and then we'd write it like this. 2 to 1. 2.0 to 1.0, that type of thing. Got it? That's how you do it typically. 2 to 1, current ratio. Okay? Always to 1, whatever it is. All right? Okay, so these look like they're the same company. Yeah, but here's a problem. This company's current assets are all cash. They don't have any accounts receivable or inventory. Got it? Their current liabilities are all due in 364 days. Do you think that company might be kind of healthy? I think they're not only healthy, they're crazy. They have way too much cash. Would you agree? They're not going to pay those bills for 364 days. This is an absurd situation. It makes the point, doesn't it? If your current liabilities aren't due for a long time and your current assets are very liquid, cash or close to it, do you need to have as much current assets compared to your current liabilities? Of course not. A lower current ratio would be fine. Right? Okay? This company, that's all inventory, which they are going to sell on 30-day terms, wait 30 days to collect the cash. and the inventory is not turning. It's moving real slow. You look at their inventory turnover too. Oh my, they're in trouble. And all of these are 90 days past due. Now what would you say about this company? They may be going bankrupt, right? Both 2-to-1 current ratios. Did I make a point with that? And so you look at it, you know, how much is current assets? Or what are the current assets composed of? How much is cash? How much is accounts receivable? How fast am I going to collect the account receivable, right? What are my terms? And how fast are they turning over? So we take all these ratios and we put them together. So I got a current ratio, I got accounts receivable turnover ratio, right? And I've got an inventory turnover ratio, and I merge them all and think, okay, what's going on here? What we do when I was working in auditing at Arthur Henderson and then later at Dwyer, Clement Colson, when I was working in auditing, we'd calculate a bunch of ratios and look at it and say, well, these don't seem to fit together. And then we'd go ask questions, and we'd get these glib responses, we call them. The manager wanted to get rid of you, so they'd say, oh, that was caused by. So then you take another ratio and say, well, yeah, but if that problem is caused by your explanation, does that fit with this one? Oh, no, that's caused by this other thing. Well, yeah, but those two are incompatible. You can't have it taking customers longer to pay you and customers are paying faster both. Two explanations for two different ratios. You don't get that, right? Even I can figure that one out. Oh, by the way, if you ever end up in those situations, always be kind of stupid. I just don't understand. Could you explain it to me? It's a great thing to do. I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand. I just can't understand. Could you explain it to me again? Could you explain it to me again? Don't just accept the answer, write it down, and leave. If you're a new staff person, your senior is going to first laugh at you, then yell at you a little bit, or maybe yell at you, then laugh at you, because they have to go find out the real answer now. They're wasting their time. Get an answer that makes sense out of it, right? But what you can do is you can say, I don't know what I'm doing, which, by the way, is the truth. None of us do, right? That's why I'm asking you questions. I don't know. You do. I don't. I'm finding out, right? So answer my question, please. Right? And another real frustrated kid out of their office, stuff like that. Complain to the senior about it, right? And the senior's going to be thrilled that they complain about something like that. This kid just asked way too many questions. Oh, I love that one. I love that. I want that person on my job. It's driving me crazy. They just want to know about everything. I've had clients that I tell you about the folks we were doing an audit. It was an orchard. They had peaches and pears and apples, mostly apples, what you say. And they had a processing plant, packing plant, and they had cold storage, atmospheric cold storage, where they suck all the air out of the building. If they let that, you don't want to be in those buildings when they suck all the air out of the buildings. I'm not kidding. Anything that's in there dies. There's mice sometimes and stuff. Yeah, I know. The apples that you eat a lot of times are covered with old. But they don't deteriorate because there's no oxygen. Doesn't make any difference. Unbelievable. Cold storage doesn't do that for you. Cold storage keeps it for, maybe a year. Right? In cold storage. Yeah. No storage, they don't last at all. So yeah, so atmosphere control storage. Anyway, I was with this guy and he owned the operation. It was one man show. It was pretty big. And he's showing me around, and he thought he was just giving me a tour because it'd be fun for me to get to see something. I was asking all kinds of questions. So you wander around and you just talk. What about this and what about this? What do you do with that? What do you do with that? How does this work? How does that work? Because you're not auditing the financial statements, you're auditing the business, you guys, because the financial statements reflect what the business is doing. The balance sheet is where the business is right now, and the income statement is what happened this year. That's it, right? It's the business. When you look at how much sales there are, McDonald's total sales, some kid put the hamburger across there, right? A whole bunch of times, and we added it all up. You can see how much happened this year compared to last year. And you need to be able to, now McDonald's would be easy, huh? Because you know what they sell. How about for some chemical company? Oh man, it's a little tougher, huh? Okay. So anyway, but he got mad at me. He says, he just says, well, are you billing me for this? Because we've been walking around here for 3 hours, looking at everything. You want to look at everything? And I says, well, yeah, I'm billing you. I'm doing the audit. Well, aren't you ever going to look at the general ledger? Well, yeah, but I've seen a general ledger before. I've never seen your operation before. I know what your general ledger is going to look like. And after I figure out what I think should be in the general ledger, then I'll start looking at it. Right? That's it. So it's different than you'd expect, huh? How many of you had that impression of going out and doing an audit? Or did you think you'd go and get a book like this and look at a bunch of numbers? But you do audit the numbers, of course. That's what ends up in the financial statements, right? So, yeah. So mostly what we do is we bullshit for a living. Every single profession, if you reach the manager level, you're bullshitting for a living. In public accounting, you get to start bullshitting right from the beginning, right? It's perfect for me because I don't know how to actually do something. So, you know, I can talk, so I can handle it. All right, anyway. So you got the idea on this one. And notice what I did was I guess I didn't say that, but I just used the year-end stuff. Okay, so let's try something else. I mentioned, we'll just do some of these. You can do a bunch of them on your own, I bet you. Let's take a look at maybe, let's do quick ratio just because it's slightly different than current ratio, so it's easy to remember. What's quick ratio? Quick ratio, the things that are quick. It's also called acid test ratio. A quick ratio is. It's the same current liabilities, same ones, guys, got it? Same ones. Divided into the quick assets. Oh, I didn't help much. What's a quick asset? It's the ones that are either already cash or will quickly become cash. So let's go down through the current assets. Is cash close to being cash? It is cash, right? How about accounts receivable in most companies? Going to be collected soon. I think that's a quick asset. Inventory. Nope. I leave inventory out. Prepaid? Nope. I leave that out. Probably so small it doesn't matter anymore. So I pick up cash and accounts receivable. What if I have any trading securities? Oh yeah, it's going to be cash soon. Got the idea? What if I have a bill for sale short term? I could sell them, I'd probably pick that up too. Got the idea? Okay. So you apply judgment to this. Which ones do you think are quick assets? Okay? For our purposes, what are you going to pick up? Probably cash and accounts receivable and dump off the prepaids in the inventory. Because the prepaids are never going to be cash, right? And the inventory has to become an account receivable first and then get collected and become cash, right? Whether you guys know it or not, you've learned a lot about business. You're not stepping back thinking about it yet, but you really have, okay? You can't do the accounting if you don't understand the business. It's impossible. That's why accountants end up running lots of businesses, because they understand the business. And they're not called accountants anymore, right? I don't know very many accountants that stay accountants. A few, right? But not very many. I got to career. Okay, anyway, so that was easy. Would you use year-end or average for this? Current assets are from the balance sheet. Current liabilities are from the balance sheet. What do you think?
Year-end.
Year-end. That's it. Okay. So then let's try another one. Let's do accounts receivable turnover ratio and inventory turnover ratio, and then we'll also do days that it takes me to sell my inventory or days it takes me to collect my receivables. These are really handy. And if you've got one of the ratios, you got the other one made. It's no big deal. How many days are in a year, you guys? 365. Right? Okay, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, so we use 365. Okay, so let's do that. Let's try an accounts receivable turnover. Where do accounts receivable come from? I debit accounts receivable, and I credit what? Sales. What do I mean by turnover?
How quick the sales turn into cash?
Yeah, how quick the sales turn into cash. That's it. Okay. So guess what I'm going to divide by what? For accounts receivable turnover. See, most of you guys have not even read this chapter because you really hate me, I guess. But anyway, how many of you have read this chapter? Now, there's not a quiz on it yet, so, why would you rush on that one? Okay, and it's not even going to be, it wasn't on the quiz, right? It is going to be on the test, though. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So why would you have studied it yet, even reading the chapter? What the heck? Do I care when you read these chapters? Not in the least. Do I care if you read them? Kind of, because I don't think you'll learn it without reading them. But if you can do it without reading it, okay. I don't care. I don't think you can. But I don't care when. If you were working for me on an audit, Would I care when you did the work? No. Would I care how long it took you? Yes, because we bill clients by the hour and I have to justify the bill I'm going to give them, right? Or I have to write your time off, which means I paid you not to do anything, right? It's right off, okay? By the way, early in your career, you're going to bill way more hours than it really takes to do the job by somebody who knows what they're doing because you don't know what you're doing. Just relax, write down all your hours. The partners expect to write off your time. If they don't write off any of your time, they think you're probably lying about how long it took you, or you're not really doing it. So write your time down. And what will happen is seniors do the time budget, and they do time like they were doing it after they have 3 years of experience, right? No way in the world can you do that. Have the courage to write down your time. It's integrity, right? They'll measure integrity with that too. I mean, obviously violation of integrity not to tell the truth, right? Okay, so seniors get in trouble for that all the time too, for doing that. So on accounts receivable turnover, what would you do? Maybe take sales, maybe net sales. Is the other thing is net sales here? Net of what? Sales discounts, sales returns and allowances, right? Net sales, okay? Divided by what? Okay, I am doing something from the income statement and comparing it to the balance sheet. What do I want to do? Year in from the income statement, sales revenue, divided by what? Average accounts receivable. How would you get average accounts receivable? How about take the beginning, add it, right, from last year's ending, this year's beginning, add it to the ending for this year, and divide by 2. That's pretty rough, but you could do it that way, couldn't you? Everybody got the idea? That's what they do, okay? What this is what? How many times a year you collect your receivables, right? Accounts receivable turnover is really how many times per year? Now, let me ask you this. Times per year. Let me ask you this. How many companies sell all their stuff, then collect all the receivables on that before they sell anything else? Then they do that again and nobody, right? Everybody is selling all the time. And the receivables are going up and down. Right, guys? It's happening over time, okay? What is this really a measure of? It's really an indirect way to measure how long does it take me on average to collect the receivable. That's it, okay? So what would you like to see, a high turnover or a low turnover? Let's do 2 companies, okay? Company A, Company B. Okay, let's say their sales are 100 million, and let's say their average accounts receivable is 20. Got the idea? Million. Company B, their sales are 100 million, but their average accounts receivable are 50. What do you think? 50 million. Yeah, 100 million and 50 million. So what's the turnover for Company A? You'd say 5 times, right? 100 million sales divided by 20 million average accounts receivable. Computing these is really simple. Okay. And then Company B? What do you think? Let's do Company C. 100. 10. 10 times. What do you think? There's the answer, always on ratios. Depends. What does it depend on? In business in general, always depends. What is it?
Depending on how much inventory you have, because if you don't have that much, but you're constantly getting rid of it, you don't have enough to sell.
This is receivables though. So you don't have to have inventory here either. Receivables are tied to inventory in the sense your sales and cost of goods sold are tied together, right? Of course. Right. But I don't think the inventory would be driving this. Small receivables. Well, yeah, Company C has smallest receivables. Company A is the next smallest, and B are really big receivables. It's nice to have smaller instead of bigger if you're still selling as much, right? What does it depend on? How about what your terms are, how long you give people to pay? Which might be what business you're in, okay? Let's convert these to days. Let's try this. How many days does it take? How would you convert times? So this is the account receivable turnover in times. How many days sales are in accounts receivable, what we call that? Days sales in accounts receivable, what would it be? How many days in a year, everybody?
365.
365 days. How many times a year are you turning? 5. Ah. So how many days does it take on average?
73.
That's about 73 days. Okay. What's this one? 365 days. 2 times? Oh man, how many days do your receivables stand out there?
182.5.
Yeah, well, it's about 183 days, whatever. Okay, how about this one? 365, it's too easy, isn't it? Divided by 10?
37.
37 days. Okay. What if they all had the same terms? They're all 30-day terms. What would you say? Net 30. That means there's no discount, right? Sales discount. Net 30. What would you think if on average it took 37 days and the fastest anybody pays you is 30? Good job. What would you think if it was 73? Terrible. What would you think if it was 183? Oh my gosh, you're going to go bankrupt. Okay, but let's change it. These people have net 10, right? These people have net 60. Ah, so these people this is Boeing. They're selling jet aircraft. Now what do you think? Net 60, nice job. 73 days. Boeing, 183 days, quite normal. Planes cost $100 million. Right? Come on. Okay, you got the idea? Okay. These people in serious trouble. So what do you have to know? Well, what are your terms? Also, could you compare it to what you did last year and the year before? What happens if your turnover slows down? Which means it takes you more days. Bad sign. You didn't change your terms, right? What happens if your competitors all collect faster than you do? And they have the same terms? You're doing a crappy job, right? You're giving away profit, right? Accounts receivable are interest-free borrowing that your customer has from you, right? Your accounts payable are interest-free borrowing you have from your vendors. So you let them pay you let them hold the receivable longer and pay you later. You just gave them interest-free borrowing. Thank you very much, right? So managing this stuff is really important, right? And you can find out where you're at and how you're doing, okay? Without knowing anything about the company, you can look at what's happening. And really, why do I say this? To get questions. If you don't know what their terms are, you can't analyze this thing, huh? Are there terms in their financial statements? Of course not. Ah, so you have to find out. You have to start asking questions, okay? Start analyzing. And you learn more and more and more. It's amazing how fast you can learn stuff. Let's do exactly the same thing with inventory. Go through sort of the same thought process. By the way, these are going to be easy on the on the test and the final. I'm going to ask you for some of them. Most of them, the name of the thing, the name of the ratio gives it to you. You're going to calculate it, give you the answer to your points. Okay? Do I really want you to memorize? Do I think you're going to memorize these and keep them forever? Nah. Everybody uses different ones anyway. You can look it up whenever you feel like it, right? But I want you to have a familiarity with them. That's all we're trying to get here. Okay? But also, by the way, am I going to give you anything where I give you the terms like I just did here? No way. No way. We'll do that in a much later class. We'll give you a set of financial statements, have you analyze the financial statements so that you become accounting and finance managers. You'll analyze those financial statements, and then you'll tell us what's going on with the company. What do you think their strengths and weaknesses are based on your analysis? In intermediate accounting and accounting 211, we're going to do something called the weighted average cost of capital model. And we're going to actually value. Anybody know somebody in 211? Yeah. I told you about it maybe. We are actually valuing companies. That's real analysis. We're taking those financial statements, we're trying to come up with our estimate of what the stock should be selling for. It's really valuable. But really, even then, you just get questions. You don't get answers. And if you talk to anybody, the values are all over the map. So I'm reading this stuff, and people have answers that are way far apart, and they're both right. Okay? So there are a few good answers, and then millions of horrible ones, that kind of thing. So anyway, all right. Let's do the inventory turnover. What would inventory turnover be, you suppose?
How long it takes until the inventory is sold?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, the turnover would be how many times. And then the days, right? Inventory is how long it takes to sell. So let's say we have, so what do you think the formula is to begin with? Inventory turnover. Okay. What does inventory become when you sell it? Credit inventory, debit what? Cost of goods sold. What do you bet that you are going to compare cost of goods sold, which will come from the income statement, right? The most recent. To what? I'm comparing income statement to balance sheet, so what would it be, guys? Average inventory. Of course. Do you have to memorize that thing? Don't you know that you debit cost of goods sold and credit inventory when you sell inventory? Does inventory turn over? When you turn it over, it becomes cost of goods sold, right? Nothing to memorize here. Okay, just let yourself think. All right? Some of them you have to memorize. A couple. Okay, so let's say my cost of goods sold. So this is the number of times, right? Same exact thing. Let's say my cost of goods sold company A. Let's just do one company. Cost of goods sold is $200,000. Average inventory is 10. How many times do they turn that inventory? 20 times. How many days is that? 365.
18 days.
Divided by 20 times. 18 days. Okay. Good, bad, or indifferent? Depends. I don't know. I'm selling really expensive furniture. Impossible. I didn't do it. I'm selling automobiles. New cars. Impossible. I didn't do it. I'm selling toys. Maybe. I'm selling canned goods. Maybe. You're good. I'm selling milk. I'm bankrupt. All my milk is rotten. Who wants milk 18 days old? That's on average. That's how long it's taking. Bread. Flour. No way. So what do you have to know? Like, what you're selling? Okay. Everybody got the idea? You know what? Sometimes your turns are really, really slow. When I was at Ocean Mushroom Farms, we would have, I don't know what the numbers were, but 200,000, or more than that, but 200,000 say, and this would be like, 60,000. Geez, your average inventory is 60,000, your cost of goods sold is 200. This is on canned goods, right? And so what is that? How many times is that? Actually, it's probably even worse than that. That's 3.3 1/3, okay, times. How many days does it take us? Oh my gosh, 365 days. It took us longer than this. It was more like 1/8. Divided by 3.3 times. Let this be common sense. It's really easy. What do you get? How many days is that?
111.
111 days. And we thought this was a great thing. We did it on purpose. We went from a little more than 30 days on canned goods turning. They're canned goods. They don't rot in can, right? They don't get damaged. Of course, you do have warehousing costs, right? So they could get damaged, of course, holding, but they don't rot. And they're canned goods. And, so it was about 30 days, and we intentionally went to about, 150, 160. Here's what we did. We used to buy them in Michigan. We had them trucked out to Washington State where we were, right? Lucky Washington. And we paid almost as much to buy the mushrooms as we could sell them. Especially after considering freight costs. Just almost didn't make money at all. And then we were one of the first ones in our industry, even though we're a little tiny company. We started buying containers in Taiwan and in Korea because they grow mushrooms there too. They can them there too. And they cost us 1/3 as much as buying them in Michigan. We grow a lot of mushrooms in Michigan. We sell them all fresh. Right? But you know what? Taiwan and Korea can't get fresh mushrooms. Oh, but Michigan mushrooms can go anywhere in the U.S., right? On UPS, on FedEx, right? or on their own place if it's a big outfit, right? That's the idea. But canned mushrooms, you just can't eat because it doesn't matter how long it takes them to get here on a boat, right? So we'd buy full containers, and we were a little tiny outfit. The containers would do about half a year for us, close to half a year. They'd all come in twice a year. Massive loads come in, right? We'd run our inventory down to almost nothing, and then it'd be huge, right? Then we'd run it down to almost nothing, and then it'd be huge. And we'd time those ships coming in, so we didn't run out. Oh, so you know what? 111 days might be brilliant. 18 days might be horrible. It's a dairy for the 18 days. You're selling canned goods for the 111. What do you think? Okay, I like the 111. I hate the 18. What should the 18 be? You're a dairy. How many days should it take you? 2? Maybe? On average? I don't know. Fast, right? Okay, on our fresh mushrooms, we sold it every day. All of them every day. We didn't want any less. You ever seen that advertisement? It might be for FedEx, where it's a florist and they have nothing there. It's about time to open the store, and it's just a shambles. There's nothing in there, and all the shelves are empty. And then the FedEx truck pulls up, and the store is completely full of flowers, and they open the door for customers to come in. That's exactly what they want. How many flowers do they want at the end of the day? 0 if you could, and obviously you can't do that, you lose sales. But yeah, you guys. This is good stuff. Read this chapter carefully, think about it, right? And you're going to be using it in 102 and in your careers, little stuff like that. See you guys.